Hello and welcome to the in-depth series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pooja Dwivedi. Very interesting news has come from Germany. Far-right extremists were trying to implement a military coup in Germany, and they were trying to usurp power from the legitimate, elected, democratic government. And this is something is coming like a surprise to us, because we see Western world to be much more developed and to be much more ahead when it comes to democracy. But trust me, now the world is changing. World is changing, and as we can see, anti-Semitism has risen in many of the regions of Europe as well, and in Australia as well. We are seeing certain things like these happening around the globe. What has happened? What is the political setup of Germany? We will talk about that as well. Who are these alleged far-right extremists? What is the Reichsbuerger movement and the beliefs, as well as certain activities that are related to them? What are these people alleged to have been planning? Who led this group of alleged plotters? It's very surprising. And a question will be attached in the comment segment. The correct answers will be, those of you who will tell the correct answers in the comment segment, you will be mentioned as favorite students. So what has happened? Let's talk about that. On December 7th, some 3,000 police officers carried out raids at different sites in 11 of Germany's 16 states. So imagine 11 of states. And here it was actually, this raid was conducted against suspected far-right extremists. There were news and rumors that they were trying to usurp power. 25 people were detained. Many of them have Reichsbuerger and 𝐾𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐡𝐭𝐢 ideologies. These ideologies will also be talked about. Now let's talk about Germany. Germany is a country in West Europe, and it is surrounded by many important countries such as Poland, Czech Republic, Austria, Switzerland, France, Luxembourg, Belgium, Netherlands, and it shares borders with Denmark as well. So as you can see, this country has already seen Nazism, and it has paid the price for Nazism. But now, as Nazism is rising again, the ideology, it needs to be curbed. Basically, the political setup of Germany is a federal democracy. By federal, I mean over here is the division of power is not too centralized, it is divided. And here we have very strong political parties, an independent judiciary, the local and regional governments are also powerful, and this is in order to prevent the power centralizing into one hand. This is the setup. Apart from that, it is also constitutional democracy because it has a constitution, and the constitution came into existence in 1949, and it is known as Grundgesetz for the, I cannot pronounce this, I'm sorry, but of course it is known as the basic law. German is very tough for me to pronounce. It is regularly being reshaped, and it is one of the most flexible constitutions in the entire world. So this can be asked in your prelims examination. How many parties, how many different parties are there? Not need to remember every party, but yes, just to give an idea about the setup. See, there are Christian Democrats which are placed at the center right, and it was formed in 1945 by a coalition of anti-Nazi group and conservatives. Here we see many important political leaders. The erstwhile Chancellor Angela Merkel was from Christian Democrats, Helmut Kohl and Konrad Adenauer. Then we have Social Democrats, SPD. This is the oldest party, and it is also the second largest party. It was formed in 1863. Here we see that it was earlier very, rigid, but now since the last few decades, it has started getting moderate. It fights for social protection for workers, greater environmental regulation, and social liberal policies. Apart from that, we also have the Greens, such as the very important person from Greens is Joschka Fischer. He has served as the foreign minister as well, and he talks about peace and pro-renewable policy. So this is the ideology of the Greens generally. Then Free Democrats are the right of the CDP economically, but they are socially very liberal. Then we have Die Linke. This was formed in 2007, but it is a left-wing dissident of the SDP only. From SDP, we have Olaf Scholz, the current chancellor. and it is actually built upon anti-capitalist thinkers. Okay, and then we have Alternative for Germany. This is one of the most controversial parties, and it is a right-wing nationalist party. It talks about reduction in immigration and occupies anti-Islam position. So this has gotten this particular party into many issues. There are two bodies which are of significance from the perspective of parliament. First is the German Bundesrat. This is the legislative body consisting of all the representatives from the 16 federal states. So basically it is like the second chamber, like Rajya Sabha we have in India. It wants to prevent any kind of rushed decisions, and that is why we see this as Rajya Sabha. Then we have second one, this is Bundestag. This is like the Lok Sabha. This is not elected by the general populace, but this is elected, okay? And this is like the Lok Sabha. And the Chancellor gets elected from Bundestag only, like generally we have from Lok Sabha, but the Prime Minister in India can be either from Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So how is in India? How is the German Chancellor elected? The Bundestag elects the Chancellor, and the Chancellor must command a majority of representatives. And when the elections take place, the composition of the Bundestag, like the Lok Sabha, also change. Now this person is Olaf Scholz. Now who are these alleged far-right extremists? These are adherents or the followers of the so-called Reich Citizens movement. See, this is the empire of Germany when it was the Reich era. So Kingdom of Prussia, the monarchy, it is comprising of so many regions, you see. Rhine province, Westphalia, Hanover, okay, Holstein, Schleswig. This is, the green one is basically monarchy. And the green as well as the yellow one are the German Empire from 1871 to 1918. The basic thing that we have to understand over here, the extent, okay. So the Reich citizens think that they extend to these many regions. The actual Germany is not today's Germany, but the erstwhile Germany. So they want that kind of Germany. And they reject Germany's post-war constitution. They have called for bringing down the government. They have an ideology or the conglomerate of they bring together different ideologies which are actually conspiracy theories, and it consists of narratives from the so-called Reich citizens as well as Kanon ideology. And Germany is ruled by a so-called big deep state. This is what they say. They think that this is not the legitimate government that is forming the government, but actually there is a deep state. So they are thinking about usurping power from the deep state. Now detention has been done on suspicion of membership in a terrorist organization. This is a terrorist organization according to the Domestic Intelligence Agency. 3 people have been detained. It also includes a Russian citizen, and another 27 people are under detention. Separately, 1 person was detained in the Austrian town of 𝐃𝐫𝐢𝐬𝐡𝐭𝐢 and another in the Italian city of Perugia. So you see that because of the nature of neighboring regions, the ideology is not just restricted to one region. Ideology can span through many regions. So that is why cross-national detentions are also happening. Now, Verfassungsschutz, this is the National Intelligence Agency of Germany, it puts the Reichsbuerger movement under observation since 2016. Why? Because a person who belongs to this organization or this movement shot down a police officer in 2016 because the police officer wanted to conduct raids in his house and he was possessing guns and weapons illegitimately. Now currently 21,000 people are belonging to Reichsbuerger. It is, if we talk about within the 21,000, around 5% or 1150 of them are seen as far-right extremists. And some 2100 Reichsbuergers are prepared to use violence to reach their goals, which is not correct. This is against sovereignty and integrity of Germany. Now, what is their mode of operation? They generally operate through a very small group, armed group and virtual networks as well. But the problem is that they also comprise of individuals. So a movement is a movement. It does not mean that a movement has to have a group. It can also mean that an ideology can manifest itself through individual actions, which is happening. The lone wolf theory, remember? Similarly. Moving ahead, now what is the challenge with lone wolf theory is that you can measure or gauge what a group is up to, but rarely it comes to the minds of the police officers and the agencies that what is an individual up to, right? That is the problem. Members of the Reichsbuerger, that is citizens of the Reich, they do not recognize modern day Germany as legitimate state. They say some of them, because see, it's not a constant ideology or it is not a homogeneous ideology. Different ideologies are working, because some of them say that we should have a German empire under a monarch. Some are adherents of the Nazi ideas. Some believe that Germany is still under military occupation and they are convinced that Germany is ruled by deep state. So you see, the tendency is not, there is not one narrative, there are multiple narratives, and this is the challenge. They reject German, some also reject German passports. They say that they do not want to go with the administration or the current administration, they want to obstruct it. They also seek confrontation with the authorities, sometimes they also use force, and they demand the enthronement of the great-great-grandson of Emperor Wilhelm II. Although among the people who have been detained, the great-great-grandson is not involved. Now, there are certain activities which amuse us. Like a civil servant last year only was, taken away from his office. He was denied his office. Why? Because he applied for a passport naming his birth state to be the Kingdom of Bavaria, and he referred to 1913 citizenship law. Attempts by Reichsbuerger movement or members to organize alternative school lessons were also there. They wanted to take the school lessons also back so that they can promote their ideologies into the impressive minds of the children. The aim of using school books are dating back to the German Empire. At least 1050 of them have lost their weapons under the current raids. The current raids as in the raids which have been going on since the past decades, because it is very difficult for somebody to possess arms and weapons in Germany. Now, what were they planning? Let's talk about that. See, they may have planned an armed attack on the institution or the state, which could have been driven by violent coup fantasies and conspiracy ideologies. So they could have used the military. They wanted to replace it with their own form of state, which was already in the course of being founded, and it could only be achieved by military means. They knew that. So we could see a full-fledged form of violence dancing in Germany. They already made concrete preparations to storm Germany's federal parliament with a small armed group as well. Now, who led this group? Not a lot of names have come up, but prosecutors have identified the suspected ringleaders as Heinrich 13 PR and Rüdiger VP. The full name has not been given because of the privacy laws in Germany. Heinrich was a well-known 71-year-old member of the minor German noble family, while Rüdiger was a 69-year-old former paratrooper. Also, they had the plan to install Heinrich as Germany's new leader, and then they could aim of negotiating a new order in Germany by placing him on the throne of Germany, throne as in their own fantasied throne. Heinrich was allegedly assisted in the project by a Russian woman identified as Vitalia B. And led by Rüdiger VP, they planned to obtain weapons and conduct firearms training to raid the parliament building. Another individual detained by the police is Birgit M.W. der Spiegel, and it would be very amusing for you all, as it is for me, that he is a judge and former lawmaker with the far-right alternative for German party, which I already mentioned that it is a party having anti-Islamist and anti-immigration outlook, right? Moving ahead, now we can only say that these kind of threats to democracies are existing, and as a nation we must move forward to root it. As in India we have the National Investigation Agency. Many other countries should form a parallel intelligence network through which they can route these elements out of the picture because it's not the time to go back. So thank you so much for watching. But let me take the names of those who have answered my last question correctly. So yes, only 2 pairs were correct. So many of you have answered it correctly. Nilesh, RK, Venkat, Utkarsh, Tushar, Riya, then stuck in teen. Also Priyanka, Amir, Usman, Unstoppable, Surya Pratap, Rupal, Vanshika, Pallavi, Daksha, Jakku, Faizan, Hari, Thiru, Rehan, Kajal, Tushita, Isha, Muhammad Kaif, Jaggu, Anuj, B. Murlidhar, and Anirudh, Puneet, Silent Crusader, Ravi K, Krishna, Sami, Rahul, GP Bhargavi, Gangadhar, Sudhanshu, Nishant, Shiv, Praful, Suchita, PS, Mahima Patel, Sagarika, Nitya, Koyal, Anubhav, Samina, Nida, and Atul. You all have answered that question correctly. Thank you so much for watching. Answer the next question as well, and we will meet soon.